that's the way we learn and grow, is pushing ourselves to our boundary, just outside our boundary. And that to me is taking a risk. And so even if I fail at that, as long as it's not like life or death, I don't think I would regret anything.
Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Off the Mat. My name is Josh Dumoulin, and this is...
Nicole Stratichuk.
Well, we had a free Sunday here, so we just kind of thought we'd come in and record an extra episode this week because, well, we had a little bit of free time, and why not? And we kind of got discussing the topic a little while ago about risk-taking and where that was going from there and everything, and kind of wanted to talk about that. So
yeah, ever since you mentioned, we should do an episode on risk taking, I was like, I thought that was interesting because there has been lots of risks that I've taken in my life, that we've taken in our life. And yeah, it was just kind of interesting to dissect it and work backwards and see where those risks came from. And there's all these other side conversations then we ended up having about risk taking, right? So yeah, I think it's a cool topic just to discuss and relevant for whether you're a martial artist on the mat, like getting ready for, progressing through the belts, getting ready for black belt, or maybe in your own life, in your school life, in your career. Like, life is just full of risk-taking activities. And so it was, just kind of cool to look at the different risks that we've taken. One thing that I found interesting was, as I was trying to look back and kind of recall the different risks that I've taken or that we've taken, I could only recall at first just the positive ones, like the risks that we took that turned out really positive. It took a lot longer for me to find the risks that we took where it didn't really turn out that good. So I thought that was interesting that my mind was easily led down the positive path. But yeah.
I always think about, too, how a lot of people will tell me when I discuss something that we've did in the middle of whatever, they'll tell me like that was a big risk that you guys took, or that is a risk that you're taking. And I never thought of those ones when we were doing it or completed it. I never thought of them as risks. Now, that doesn't mean I'm risk adverse complete. Like, I don't fear anything of it. I have plenty of fear of certain things, one of these things included. But the things like opening a Taekwondo school, I never thought of that as risky. I don't know why. When we moved into our new facility 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago now, with Champion, when we moved from the basement spot that we had with 3,600 square feet into a much larger facility with 2 floors, almost 7,000 square feet, almost twice the amount of space, I never thought of that as a risk. I just was either caught up in it and just took the chance and went for it, but I never thought of it as a risk. Even when we first opened our school, like all of the things that you're responsible for with it, I never felt that was taking a risk.
Right. I think because you had this grand vision for Champion, right? And so getting into a new facility, a bigger facility, better facility, that was just part of the vision. So for you, that wasn't a risk. It was like a step closer
Right.
to the vision, right? And that was the way that your brain conceptualized it and thought about it. Whereas someone else on the outside, they don't know your vision. They don't know your why. They don't know where your end is going to be. So they can't really see the same things that you're seeing, but it is good to, maybe listen to those naysayers and, see what they have to say, because maybe they're thinking of things that you didn't think about. But I experienced the same thing, because even when I was back in high school, I had said, I want to own and operate a martial arts school one day. And I had people tell me like, no, you can't do that. Right. Because like, that's too risky. You can't do that. So yeah, there's always going to be people on the outside that are saying, no, that's too risky.
Yeah, that's
and
why
you,
I don't
you
think
don't
you should
see
listen
it.
to them.
Yeah. Well, yes, I agree.
They're gonna have certain things, but
Yeah.
there'll always be something that we can find, and if we do, I don't know.
But I think all of us have that different risk tolerance, right? Based on like our background, our experiences, our knowledge. We have different risk tolerances. And so some of us, and then predispositions about how risky we want to be. But I think in some way, the risks that one person is willing to take versus another person is because it's personal to them and they have this grander vision of why they're going to take that risk. That's why the why is so important, which is why we always talk about the why, right?
Right.
Yeah.
The other one that I never felt, I actually, okay, I should, one thing that grew on me. So when I was competing a lot, like that's taking a risk in
Yeah.
some ways. I mean, you're going into the ring now, though it's a controlled environment where, you know, competitors are following a set of rules and there's all of these things. There's, I would say, the risk of, you know, things happening, you know, decreases with, you know, the rules and the environment and all of those things, but there's still risk to it. I mean, how many times have we been to a tournament, regardless of what the rules, regulations, all of the things surrounding it, all of the equipment that we might have to wear, the foot, the hands, the helmet, all of it,
The
mouth
level
guard,
of the umpires.
the level of the umpires, there's still injuries. There's always still somebody that leaves with a concussion or a broken nose or just any sort of injury in that part there. And I never felt a risk to it. I did, however, though, as I got older and the kids
Yes.
were now involved in it, then I started to. So that was always something that was interesting. I never feared, okay, I feared competing, not even feared competing. I was nervous to compete on the day. Like I always tell people that. Even I got nervous after how many events I'd go to. I still got nervous, but I never felt it as a risk. I never thought when I was filling out the registration form of all the things that could happen. I just, you know, would train for it, go and do it. And I had, you know, injuries myself, nothing severe, but I didn't start actually thinking of it as a risky thing until later.
Yes, I can see that because later in life you have kids and then you realize like, oh yeah, there is a risk of concussion or other injuries in a competitive sport. So I see that for sure. I guess it really depends on how you define risk, or is there a difference between taking a calculated risk and taking a chance? Do you know what I mean? Or are they the same thing? I don't know. So like what
Say that again?
yeah, so taking a calculated risk or just taking a chance. Is there a difference between those two things? And maybe like in your head, you categorize one or something as taking a risk and something as taking a chance. I don't know. Maybe they're the same thing. But do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, I do.
In my head, I'd be like, oh, I can take a chance. Like taking a chance to me is you take a chance and there could be a positive or a negative outcome, but neither one really like affects me. Like if it goes bad or if there is a negative outcome of it, it doesn't really affect anything, right? It's really not negative, but taking a risk to me, in my mind, I kind of categorize that there is a positive outcome or there's a negative outcome, right? There are going to be consequences if maybe negative consequences if you don't succeed at taking that risk,
Okay.
right? I don't know. Maybe there's
Yeah.
a difference. Maybe there's not.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't know.
I
I've
think
never
it's
really
just
thought
how
of it that way.
you
That's-
think about what a risk is. So like maybe if you're thinking risk is more like taking a chance, it's easier to take a chance, right? I don't know. Just really depends on how you're thinking about it. But I think for the purposes of this conversation, like taking a risk means that there could be a positive outcome and or there could be a negative outcome, or it's a spectrum. So like maybe there's some neutral outcomes that come of that. So
Okay.
yeah, I was thinking a thing that I think I said this already, but it was interesting that I couldn't think of the risks that I took that had a negative outcome. And because I think there definitely has been, and I've recalled some now that I've been thinking about it, but those times where I took a risk and maybe had a negative outcome, I just looked at those as like, well, I took a risk. It didn't work out, but I definitely learned something, right? You take the lessons that were in that risk that you took and apply them going forward to your grander vision. Like there's been things that we've done with Champion where we've taken certain risks. They didn't go so well, but then we we just learned from it and
Yeah.
kept moving on.
So with those, I guess for the sake of maybe a lesson in there, did you ever feel when you think back on those ones that you took risks on, they didn't go very well? Maybe it like, and by very well, it could be just like, that didn't work out and nothing, came to fruition with it. Or like there was some negative consequences like this, we did this, it went this way, and we either lost some money, we lost reputation, we lost like whatever it was. Like I can't think of anything.
Yeah.
Do you ever sit back on those and go, boy, I really regret taking that risk or going through with that action that we did or you did or whatever it was? Is there ever thought of it? Because that's always the one thing that I think about too. It's like, when I'm thinking of what could go right or wrong, I get fixated on like, oh, well, if this, and this goes wrong, and I might have this, and then I get stuck on that, which I'm sure most people do, but why a lot of people don't take those big risks. But then I go into it. So like when it's gone negatively and you're like, shoot, like that didn't happen. Did you ever regret?
That's a good question. So phrasing it that way, I would say less than 3 times do I regret something. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like that's what life is made up of, is taking risks and either ending on the positive side or experiencing the negative side. And if you are on the negative side, you're going to learn and grow from that. Right? I think that in itself is like your comfort level with taking risk or your comfort level with being in the uncomfortable, right? That's the way we learn and grow, is pushing ourselves to our boundary, just outside our boundary. And that to me is taking a risk. And so even if I fail at that, as long as it's not like life or death, I don't think I would regret anything. Do you know what I mean? I would say it's hard. I don't think there's anything I truly, truly regret because every risk that I've taken, and if it hasn't gone well, no one's died from my risk-taking adventures, right? Like I'm still here. So like, is it that bad?
Right.
That I would regret it? Like if I made a decision and someone's life was at stake, I think that would be the only time that I would regret something. I feel like anything else, it's survivable and you'll learn from it and grow from it.
Right. Agreed. No, 100% agreed. It's funny though that like even with that, even knowing that we can still sometimes like, oh, well, what if? Like, what if this happens?
I do that. Like, I'm the worst for that.
Yeah.
And we're like even coming to do a podcast, like restarting the podcast. Because if you guys follow the show, there was a big long break of this podcast because we had life stuff going on and moving to Arizona and all of that stuff. Like, there was just a lot of excuses to be
right.
To be frank, there was excuses and we gave in to those excuses. And so now to come back and restart the podcast, we were like, it took us a long time. It took us a long time to do it because I think we were scared. Like scared of taking the risk. I gave into criticism. Yeah, like people aren't going to listen or who's going to listen or are we even relevant? Like those are some of the things that run into my head. Or like, well, what have we talked about on the podcast and, over a year ago when we had it rolling and people were listening and people were tuning in, and then we've taken this big long break, like what does that show to people? Like I just thought of everything negatively. Right. And so who are we to restart this podcast? But I think we feel really good when we do the podcast, so that's why we're back doing it. So I'm glad that we got back and kind of like, okay, whatever risk this is there going to be a negative outcome to restarting the podcast? I don't know. There could be maybe negative reviews or people don't like it. Okay. So like, okay, maybe we get some criticism on things. Sure. but no one's life is at stake. You know what I mean? Like, that's where my head goes. If it's only like a huge failure or a risk that I shouldn't have taken, if like life or death is on the line. I
Yeah.
don't know. There's other things too. Like, we don't want to take stupid risks, right? Like financially or health wise or business wise. Like, yeah, we don't want to take like stupid risks, but anything that a risk is well thought out and it aligns with your bigger vision, whether that's your personal vision, your family vision, your business vision, whatever, if it's aligned with who you're trying to become, I think it's a risk worth taking.
Yep.
Right. And anything negative that comes from those risks is just learning and growth. So that's how I think about it. I think about, we were talking about the 5 universal truths or in psychology or something. And there was that one about what you avoid holds you back. And I think this applies to taking risks, right? Because what we avoid holds us back. There's a risk involved there to do the thing that you're avoiding, right? There's a risk to take that action. And it's the, that fear of failing that's, holding us back. And so we're not taking the risk. But even though taking that risk, whether it's positive or negative outcome, is going to get us closer to our personal mission or our business mission or our family vision or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's interesting.
It is. I know. Like I said,
Everything is a risk, right? Like us driving to the office today, there's a risk involved there, right? Crossing the road, there's a risk involved. Everything involves risk. It just comes down to like the individual's tolerance, I guess, and like what they're willing to put on the line to learn and grow and get closer to the highest version of themselves.
Well, okay, so even just going back to that, okay, what you avoid controls you, right? Okay, so obviously driving to the office, driving to work, driving to school, all of those things they don't become risky anymore. Why? Well, we don't avoid them. We do attack them every day.
Right.
We drive to work.
And you had a
So-
positive outcome,
Exactly.
right?
So,
Yeah.
okay. And maybe you've gotten into a car accident and that happens and you get a little like,
Okay, then you
whatever,
maybe
but-
like not drive for a day, and then you're like, well, I got to go back to work, so I
Yeah.
better get back on the
But
horse.
that's just it. So like when we do purposely go out of our way to drive to work, drive to the office, drive to your business, drop the kids off at school, it's not a risky thing. In fact, we just kind of do it. We just put it on autopilot. So it's kind of like, taking that small of a lesson there, something like that, and applying it to something else, right? Okay, so maybe it is competition. Maybe you're thinking about entering in the next tournament coming up, and you're like, hey, I'm a little nervous about it. I'm taking a risk here. I'm going to drive there. I'm going to take the kids there. All of this stuff is going to run through. And then you start thinking all of these negative things. Well, the more you put yourself through, training, attending, like that's why we even tell you guys, like, it's not
hard
just
things.
like come to class to get the practice. It's just like get your mind into the routine and into the habit, into the consistency of training. So that way, the more you're on the mat, just the more comfortable you are. And when you do look at people, like, again, just kind of tying it back to, our world here of Taekwondo competition and martial arts and everything, the people that you see who are so comfortable on the mat, it's because they spend so many hours on it. They have seen so many kicks coming at them. They have run through their patterns so many times. They have stepped onto the mat. They have felt the grip. They know every piece. They know exactly how many meters the mat, the ring is. So they know when they're doing certain steps and moves, and if they're trying to strategize to put their opponent in one corner of the ring in one pocket, and they know they need to be here. They know that if they have to do that, switch back kick and it's going to fade back 3 feet, they know they're going to be this many. Like, they've done it so many times. So it's just become this instinct. And that's why I think, like, even when I was talking earlier about how I never looked at competition as a risk, well, it was because it was so many hours
on the mat.
that I never looked at that as a risk. And probably the same thing about moving locations and doing, more things with, or just even opening the business in general. Like when we first opened the business together, I had already been doing it for a while, but then when we started doing it together, your parents looked at it as like, well, this is silly. Like
Yeah.
why would you do it?
It's too
And that's
risky.
okay, right? But it's just like we had done so much that we just never felt like,
That's right.
you know, a risk there. So when I think of that one that you brought up of what you avoid controls you, it's like, well, it's not like, we avoided going to train and avoided getting on the mat. So of course I'm going to be fearful of competition if I avoid getting onto the mat.
So if someone, let's say someone is thinking about taking a risk, what advice or strategies or steps would you suggest they take in order to like either or decide to take the risk or decide no, that's I'm not going to take that risk?
Okay. I think it would be like, okay, what is the outcome you want to get out of this? So again, if you're it's taking a risk, again, I mean, sometimes I don't even, again, I don't know what would the risk be.
Here, I'll come up with one.
Okay.
Let's say, because this is just, let's keep it martial arts related. Like someone's thinking about starting in martial arts. That's a risk for them to start something new.
Right. I would think, why do you like, what outcome do you want?
Right.
Why?
So start with
Okay.
why.
So it would be, why do you want to do this? Okay. Is it to lose weight? Okay, great. Is it to get more confidence? Is it to learn self-defense? Is it to get a community, like join a community of people who are like-minded that you can be involved in? Like does it have something to do with that? I would think I would start with that. Like, what is the outcome that you want, right? And then I would kind of work backwards from there, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah, I agree. I think that when you're deciding to take a risk or not, you have to start with why. Like why are you even considering that? And most often is because you've got this like vision of who you want to be or what you want to do or something you want to accomplish. So you've already got that. And so you just get good at defining what that why is and so that you can decide objectively if like that's the aligned action that you need to take, right?
Well, what's interesting with that too is when people call, whether it's champion or move, and we're asking them about martial arts, or sorry, they're asking us about martial arts, and we're giving them basic info that they're asking. One of the things that we go into is like, well, what
Yes.
interests you
Yes.
in starting martial arts for yourself or for your child? Oh, I want my son to have more confidence. I want my daughter to learn some self-defense. I want myself to get involved and have more fitness. I want to get into better shape, right? So we try to pull out that why from people when they call or walk in the door or when they come in for that first lesson. We start that conversation. We start getting them to think about, why do I want this? They kind of already know, but now it's like, I want you to say it. Like,
Yeah,
I want you
like-
to say this out loud, that you want confidence, that you want discipline, that you want fitness, you want to lose weight, whatever it is.
Yeah, and another question I would ask, I guess, myself if I was thinking about taking a risk is like, what's in it for me? Like, I want to know what am I going to get out of the positive outcome, right? And that's kind of similar to your why or what are you looking for to get out of? Okay, so let's say someone's going to start in Taekwondo, in martial arts, and they want to get fit and join a community. So yes, looks like Taekwondo martial arts is a good fit that way. What's the next step to saying yes to taking the risk?
I would say do some research. Like, you should call around. Like if this is the reference that we're
Yeah.
doing, I would do research into what style of martial art you want to do, because there's so many great martial arts out there. Whether it is Taekwondo, whether it's kickboxing, whether it's Muay Thai, whether it's Jiu-Jitsu, there's so many great styles out there, and you should find what fits you. right? Like, what is it that you enjoy? Some people don't want the jujitsu because they don't like
The grappling.
yourself. Like
Yeah, yeah.
you're, you know,
I'm not a grappler.
yeah, that's not your favorite thing.
I've done
So
it quite a bit, but yeah, it's not for me.
exactly. So for you, as great as it might be, you might be like, it's not going to tie you. It's not going to keep you there because you already know it's like,
Right.
it's not what you're looking. So I would do the research, like find as much as you can. And then I would make phone calls. I would call around.
First step is making sure that it fits with your why, or that, what you're trying to get out of it, or that. And then the second step you're saying is do some research. And so it's like explore your options is the second thing. And like we're talking about someone joining martial arts, but this can apply to anything, right? Like
Yes.
you're looking at the risk. Is it aligned with your why and the grander vision for you or your business or your whatever you're looking at? And then what are the options, right? And like the pros and cons of those different things. Is there anything else that you like? What would be the next step, or is there another step, or is it just like evaluating those different options?
Again, if we're talking about something like this, I would say explore those options and then go. You got to just start. Like that would be the next thing is just go start. You've already done the research. You already know why you want to go through it. Now it's just going and doing it.
Yeah,
And you have to just get through it.
How
And
do we get to that action? Like we've decided that, okay, yes, we're going to take the action. How do we do it? Like,
well, depending on where you live, you call 403-320-2822 and you talk to Gabriella and you say, I'd like to book a class.
we're talking, yes. There you go.
Depending on where you live. Now, if you live in Arizona, then we're going to want to call Move Martial Arts.
At 480.
So it just really depends on where it is that
Right.
you where you are. But really, that is what I would.
Right. Yeah. So like is it aligned with your why? What are the options? What are the pros and cons? Make your decision from there. And then I feel like this is where people get stuck though, is that they'll do that 1 and 2 steps, right? They're like, yep, this is something that I need to do. I've explored my options. I've explored the pros and cons. I know that this is the right studio, or this is the right decision, that the risk that I'm going to take, but then they stall. So like, what is it that pushes us over that hump? Or like, I think that's where, that piece about what we're avoiding is holding us back.
Yep.
Right? So just the fact of like avoiding starting the martial arts class or avoiding that is really holding us back. So is it just like, do you just hit your breaking point where you're like, well, I got to do it. Like, I'm just not. I just feel like it takes people too long to get to that almost like rock bottom, or like,
Well,
where
okay,
it's like
yeah.
a must have to do this.
Yes. Okay. And this is a different topic altogether, but alcoholics. Okay.
Sure.
In Alcoholics Anonymous, they say that everybody has a different bottom. Like everybody's bottom is different. And some people, it takes them just one time of, over drinking and somebody witnessing them doing something stupid, maybe saying something a little silly, and they're like, I'm never drinking again. And then some people, it takes them literally crashing the car, getting arrested, spending the night in the drunk tank, doing all of these things to actually hit a bottom. And then some people, it's like they got to do that, and they got to watch the world crash and burn before they go, I think I got a problem. So like everybody, like you're saying, everybody's tolerance is different, and everybody's breaking point is different here. So yes, some people, if it is like for yourself, okay, I'm looking for fitness. It's like, I've done the research. I know I want to start martial arts. I know I want to do this. This is the style I want to do. I'll call next week. And then, another pound or two gets gained, a little bit more, like more drowsy mornings because you're just lacking in energy. And then another week goes by, another pound or two.
Yeah.
Another lazy morning. Oh, man. You see an ad, you see a post, whatever it is. And it's like eventually, yes, like your breaking point happens. Maybe it's your kids. Like I want them to be more confident. Or I want them to have a better attitude at home. I want them to listen the first time. All of these things, whatever it is. And that martial arts will help. You've seen the stuff. It'll help a lot with your kids. And then it's just like, it's just taking that first step. Honestly, that's the hardest part. I think
Yes.
once you've done all of those things, it's like you just have to take the step. And the step, honestly, is simply as going into, because that is a big part. Once you make the phone call, because most people that call, they're always a little nervous when they call. And it's so funny that once you just sort of just like break the ice with them and just kind of relax them a little bit. And I have a decent ability to do that, probably just because I've done it so many times. The people are pretty comfortable once you start
Right.
engaging with them for the 30 seconds or a minute of just some back and forth, and they're like, oh, why did
Yeah.
I wait? Like, why did I, like, I'm not nervous
I
at all.
find that it's most evident with, like, it's one thing for parents to call in for classes for their kids. It's different when an adult does that for themselves,
Yep.
right? Because that's a risk that they're taking, like something brave that they need to do.
True.
And you just see it all come together more visually, I guess. Like, just they are nervous to come in. It's them. So they're nervous to take that risk to come try something new. Just going back for a second, because okay, the first thing is we have to be connected to our why. We have to know our options and, you know, find the right thing for us. And then there's this element of time, or that breaking point for like when we're ready. Readiness, I guess, is the third piece to taking a risk, right? Is readiness to take that risk. And I see that with adults, like once they call, they have reached that readiness.
Yep.
But it's probably been, I don't know, 9, 10 attempts prior to that for them to get to that readiness point. Or I would say that's true for any risk, right? Like we're just sometimes not ready to take the risk. So I would say, like, just through our conversation here, we've kind of discovered like the three things are connection to your why, like weighing your options, and making sure that it's aligned with your why. And then the third thing is assessing your readiness to actually take the risk.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, and even, okay, just doing this, for example, like starting, to record, like everybody, I feel like everybody wanted to start a podcast and everything, like, 2020 and everything.
It took off.
Right, exactly, of course. And some people just went and leapt in because went and got the stuff, and that's great. And those people were willing to just go and do it. But even that there, it's like, okay, what we wanted to do was we decided, like, we should do this. Why? Well, we want to help parents. Like, the whole goal of this was to help parents with their kids when it comes to coaching, how to help them stay motivated, how we process as coaches and instructors, how we process certain things on the floor, so that way you guys had a better understanding to help them at home, to get them into class, to get them on the floor, get them on the field, whatever avenue you're in. We wanted this message from our experience, parenting, whether it was parenting advice or just personal stuff for you. And then it was like, okay, well, then we did the research. Well, what kind of equipment should we get? And what kind of stuff and things do we need to do this? And then how do I put it? And then it was like, okay, assessing, well, what if this happens? Like, how do we handle this? Comments or,
reviews or whatever. Yeah.
Like, does anybody listen?
Now, if we take this so that maybe it's applicable to one of our champion students, if we're thinking about, should I enter a tournament for the first time? Or maybe not even the first time, but another time, right? Like maybe you're an experienced competitor. Every time you step into the ring or enter a competition, that's going to be a risk. So it's like looking at those three things to make sure that you're, like, whether or not you should enter, right? Is it aligned with your why? Like, why do you want to compete, or why is it coming up for you? And is that something, is the outcome of it going to be what you want, or potential to be what you want? And then the second thing is, your options, right? Exploring what options you have. I guess when it comes to a tournament like that, like you've got different events that you could compete in, or there's maybe different events, right? So is it the right tournament for
Cost.
you? Yeah, or
Travel,
cost. Yeah. how close is it or how far is it? All of those things are involved in that. And then the third thing is readiness. So
Well,
have you put in the preparation, and are you
yes.
ready to enter mentally, physically, emotionally? Are you ready for
Well,
entry?
I think even in the research though, that part of readiness almost needs to come in. I don't know if the word readiness would be like applicable there, but it would be like, okay, in the preparation piece that you're doing, is you should in there not only assess like travel distance and all the stuff that you talked about, but how much uh, training time extra should you do? Because that should be weighed into the
Yes, yeah.
research piece as well.
Research, yeah. Like,
You should understand that if you want to go to the local tournament that's just in your own city, well, yeah, you might feel you only need to train a little bit extra. Well, now it's 2 hours away. Well, it's a little bit bigger of a deal. There's a hotel involved now. There's a little extra time. Like, I need to get my kids there. Oh, now we're going across the country
for nationals,
for
and you're a black
nationals.
belt, and it's Team Canada
Yes.
selections, right? There's bigger risk involved that
Yes.
way.
And then all of a sudden you go to the next scale up. Now it's an international, it's a World Cup, it's a World Championship. Those take, and I feel like actually that's one thing that a lot of people don't assess when they want to go to something like a World Championships, is they like the idea of the World Championships more than the work. And they want to go to the World Championships, and unfortunately I see this a lot with more so, what do we call it, like Western society, like ours, like
Western
Canada
culture?
and Western
Sure. Oh,
culture,
yeah, for
in
sure.
Canada and US. It's like we like it because
We get to say.
we get to say, and we're entitled to it, and there's a lot of that unfortunately out there. And so when they're going through it, they don't actually think like, oh, I should maybe train 6 7 days a week. Like,
Like 3 or 4 hours a day
right, 4 months before.
or a year.
Yeah, and all they do is they just go like, "Oh yeah, the World Championships, that's great," and they just go do it. And
Yeah, I'm going to Worlds, so I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing.
yeah, I feel like we're
and
going
not
like,
and don't like step it up a notch. Like, it's
Yeah.
a bigger risk. You don't realize that like you're stepping onto the world stage is different than your provincial stage or state stage.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah, I know. I don't
Interesting.
like. I feel like I'm going different off topic with it, but it just kind of
Yeah.
makes me think like,
important to know.
yes, is when you are competing, and I mean, I know I admitted earlier that I never thought of competition as a risk, but that doesn't mean I didn't put in the work for that. Like, when we were going to, Budapest, you and I, or
Another question I'm thinking of that has to do with risk taking is so how do you get yourself okay, so like we identified the third piece here is kind of like readiness to take that risk. How do you get yourself ready for any given risk? I was thinking, this is where my head went, is that we always preach about this, is like, do hard things. Like, if you're going to take a risk, it's going to be hard. I don't think a risk would be a risk if there wasn't this element of hard discomfort, risk of failure, right? Or like there's going to be the chance that you fail at whatever risk that you take. And so the way that you get there to be ready to take that risk is putting yourself in those situations, right? If you want to be a world champion, you better be getting into a lot of rings, right? You better be preparing a lot, or just like putting yourself in that discomfort so that you learn and grow and get better so that you're ready to take this big risk that maybe you're thinking about. Do the hard things. That's what I was getting at.
yeah,
Like, if you want to take big risks, you have to practice that. Being a risk taker is because you don't want to be taking stupid risks, right? Like, you want to prepare yourself. You want to be ready to be able to take whatever risk it is, whether that's business or personal or school or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on risk taking?
I think the only thing that I have on it, and it seems just, I don't know if I always go back to the old story, whether it's a true story. It's this whole thing of the old man on his deathbed, and somebody asks him like, oh, like, any regrets in your life, and he never talks about the things that he did. He always talks about the things he didn't do. I always
Ah,
kind of go back to that, and it's just this simple tale of, when you're on your deathbed, you're never going to sit back and think about like, boy, I really hate that I,
did this or
did
did that.
this.
Oh
It's
my
like I
gosh.
always go back to that story of him talking about, I really regret, you know, not talking to that girl. I really regret not starting that business that I wanted to always do, and I ended up doing this for my whole life. I always regret not buying, this thing, whatever it
Yeah.
is, or
I
getting the
regret
dog,
starting
or
martial arts.
yes, I really regret not starting martial
Yeah, not
arts.
starting.
I
That's what I
really
meant.
regret not taking that move, you know, somewhere. So I always go back to that, and I try to think of, is this something that when I'm old and gray, and Ryder and Rocky are one day asking me, like, what are your regrets?
Yeah.
I never want to be like, oh, it's like, I don't want to leave something undone
Undone. Right.
with it. So I think for
Yes.
me, that's what if I were to leave it all off on with something, it would be just that. I always go back to that. And if it's something that, we're going back to of like, okay, could this harm us? Could this be too, could this,
Of course.
then okay, then we really need to look at this strategically,
Right.
take the right steps, and then put the right action steps in place. If we're going to do this, then let's put a little bit more serious thought into it. But ultimately, I'm like, I never want to just be regretting certain things.
Yeah, regretting
Yeah.
not taking the
Yeah.
risk, right? And so that's
And
kind of
what
like
lesson
that.
I would teach
That
them.
yeah, that's the first kind of part of the first step is like understanding what are the risks that are associated with this higher version of myself, or getting to where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
There's risks involved to get there, and so we don't want to miss out on those risks entirely.
Yeah.
Right? Oh my gosh, yeah. So that just means we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have a lot of work to do.
Yes.
We all do. Yeah, and yeah, that just makes me think, okay, we got to do this, this, and this, and this.
Exactly.
Because, like, we could be gone tomorrow. So we don't want to regret not taking certain risks.
Yep. And
Yeah.
and what did they learn along the way from seeing us
Yes.
take certain risks? The boys watching you go and compete,
Right.
like that's teaching them something. Again, going back to that story, if there's this multiverse and the one universe you're taking,
My
you
mind's
didn't
gonna
go and
explode
compete,
right now.
and then this universe that we're in right now, you did compete,
Yeah.
and the other one you didn't.
Yeah, so
Would
like
the boys go like, "Oh, mom talked about this thing that
she did never
she
do.
never did."
Yeah.
Nope, there's another thing she just did.
Yeah.
And then maybe they won't think that, but they then build
But
that habit themselves.
subconsciously they're absorbing
Yes.
that, right? Where I say I wanted to do this and I wanted or I was going to do this, but then I didn't do that. Like it just shows them that it's okay to not be a man of your word. And to me that's really important. So if I say I'm going to do something, I do it.
Yep.
And yes. Yeah.
I
So
even
we
talked
don't wanna-
about it with the 75 hard, like you were asking, like, because I talked about times I
Right.
wanted to not do it anymore, and some of my hard days, and it was just this idea of like, well, I don't want them to like see that, like, you can quit.
Right.
You know.
So that thing about the things you avoid are holding you back. I think that's what we're talking about here is the risks that we avoid are holding us back.
Yeah.
And so we need to attack those risks, like if there's a risk or goal plan, like come up with the plan, like let's execute, because otherwise there's just this like list of hopes and dreams and we're gonna regret not going after them.
Yeah. I
Regret the risk we never took.
exactly.
Ugh.
So if
Heartbreaking.
yeah, yes, that's what I think of. I don't think of it like, oh, it's like, oh, it pains me when I think of that
Yeah.
story. Again, it's just it's something that really sits with me when I do think about certain stuff. So anyway, if there's something that you're thinking about doing, whether it's starting martial arts, whether it is starting on a new fitness journey, whether it is opening up that business, whether it's whatever it is, I don't know. Like, take the risk. Just take a risk. Take some risks. If I had to do it all again, I even think back to some of the stuff that I've done, and I'm just like, I don't think about the stuff that we've messed up on. It's like, oh man,
we didn't do that thing.
yeah.
Yeah, why didn't we try that thing? Why didn't we do this? Or why didn't we take the risk?
Yep.
Yeah. Or, I mean, it comes into that readiness factor that we talked about. But there's been times where, okay, we did finally take the risk, but we could have taken that risk so much sooner.
Right. And then been ahead.
And yeah, just been farther ahead. And I don't know, there's a piece of me that's like, okay, well, there's reasons for everything. And
Sure.
there is some like divine plan for us too. So like maybe that's just been part of our plan. But yeah, like don't wait on things. Like get yourself ready to take the risk that you know you want to take.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys. If you guys have listened to the very end, I appreciate you guys all. We appreciate you guys all. We couldn't be more grateful for everybody. You know, it's funny. Okay, we just like ramble here, but we've now recorded 3 episodes since we've been back recording. 1 has been up as of right now, as of this recording here, and just seeing. Okay, I look at the stats and I can read all these things because that's what's really cool about all the stuff that you can do now. And I see the views, and it's cool because there's people out there that if you're listening to this right now, you're listening to this, and I see it's going to sound so funny. Some people will laugh, but it's like I see 18 views or something like that on the consistency episode on the podcast platforms. And I'm like, I'm not embarrassed by that. I'm just like, yeah, that's so cool that like some people are listening to it. So if you are one of those people, I thank you guys, and I hope that whatever it is that we want or need to talk about on here, you guys get value out of, and you guys just supporting us in any way, just listening, tuning in, watching, however it is that you're tuning into us. I appreciate you guys a lot.
Yes, I agree just about the viewership stuff. Like, even if just one person listens to it, it's worth it for me. I think only, like, partly is because I enjoy making the podcast. So I'm like, if even just one person is listening and downloads it, we'll keep going. I am not looking at the downloads because I don't know. I don't even know how. That's like your boat.
Yeah, I put them up,
Your
so
boat.
I see that.
I don't see any of that, and I don't care to see any of that. As long as I hear from him that we got at least 1 download per episode, we'll keep going, okay? But it would be great if this was helpful, or you do enjoy the episodes, that maybe you could share it or send it to somebody and be like, hey, you guys should give these guys a listen, these average Joes. I don't know. We're not average Joes. Are we?
I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you guys did and you guys find any value with it, please share it with somebody that you know. We greatly appreciate it. Other than that, my name is Josh Jumlin, and this is
Nicole Stratichuk.
And you've been listening to or watching Off the Mat. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, guys. Bye.